Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our special evening webinar on Ambergris Caye tonight, which is Belize's top luxury investment destination. As Daniel said, Ambergris Caye and San Pedro has won the TripAdvisor Award in 2013 for the number one spot island. So this is amazing, amazing news. Before I introduce myself, actually before I introduce our host, this is Marie, by the way. I'm the founder of the Zen Investor based in Montreal, Canada. Before we get into introducing our host tonight, I just want to get into the real technicalities. For questions you may have, please feel free to ask your questions at the right bottom of the screen in the chat box. And the questions will be answered at the end of this webinar, and Andrea, I guess, will be reading them. If you prefer to ask your question live, we will unmute you, and you'll be able to address your question to us. Just let us know which one you prefer. So tonight we have the great pleasure to host a special guest whom our group has been involved, I would say, for over the last 12 months now. I just want to say that tonight we, again, you know, this is a very, very special evening tonight because Ambergris Caye is really one of the most visited destinations in Belize, and we are really excited to present this opportunity to all of you tonight. With a presence in Belize for over 6 years, Daniel, you correct me if I'm wrong, and his involvement in the Sandy Point Group, Daniel Hartin brings a huge amount of knowledge and expertise on the Belize market for us Canadians. Being actually originally from Canada, he's now actually living in Belize pretty much full time. So without any further ado, let me now introduce Daniel Hartin with the Sandy Point Group. Daniel, this is all yours.
Well, first of all, thanks very much for introducing me, Marie. I appreciate that. I'll try to give you as much knowledge as I can. I originally started the RE/MAX franchise on the mainland, and then I realized that the real tourism destination point, which represents 70% of all tourism that goes to Belize, ends up on Ambergris Caye. So I started to refocus my real estate profession towards Ambergris Caye, and now, you know, we're proud to say that our RE/MAX office, which is another business that I run, in addition to doing some co-development, our RE/MAX office has approximately 80% of the total market share on the #1 island in the world, according to TripAdvisor. So that's really looking up. So if we look at this first slide here, believe it or not, this is an artist's virtual rendition of a second floor view from one of the units within one of the projects that has been very popular, the most popular project actually in the country of Belize, because of the pattern of success of the developer, which we'll get into a little bit later. And so I'll just move on to the next slide here. So obviously you've met me. You've got a little bit of background about who I am. I've been in real estate for 15 years, and I'm in the top 1% for all of Central America and the Caribbean. And I've managed to go through a lot of due diligence and research on a lot of different projects, and I ended up with Sandy Point Resorts, and which we'll talk about a little bit more as to why Sandy Point Resorts is by far unmatched in its pattern of success, not only in building projects, but also managing them. So we're going to talk a little bit about Belize. We're going to talk why Ambergris Caye, the evolution of the district and tourists, the retirees, the investment, and then of course we're going to talk a little bit about the new project, the 5th project of Sandy Point Resorts, and some of the opportunities that are exclusively offered just for the Zen investor. So you're very privileged to be a part of this, and I'm very privileged to have a share in working with Sandy Point Resorts. So I was born in Australia, raised in Canada. I've been with RE/MAX since I was 18. So I thought, why sell vacuum cleaners when you can sell houses? and I got bored of that in Canada because Canada, the subdivisions and character can be very cookie cutter. So I thought, well, what would I do if I was retired? So I thought, well, I would probably be in the Caribbean doing real estate development and selling real estate properties. So almost 7 years ago now, I ended up in Belize because it was English speaking. And for us Canadians, that's a very good thing because Canadian culture in general is very reserved. And if we can go to a place where we know more than the word cervezas, then that makes us very comfortable, and we're able to maneuver around safely and get to know the local population. So a little bit about Belize. Belize is located just south of Mexico, and as you can see here on the map, it's actually surrounded by Guatemala, and then north of Belize is Mexico, and it's approximately just across the Gulf of Mexico from Miami. So there's direct flights from Miami, there's direct flights from Atlanta, Newark, Texas, as well as we just started flights from Cancun. So the local airline Tropic Air, literally a week ago, it's not even in this presentation, just opened up the channel from Cancun, which means now that the entire European market that hasn't even started to come to Belize yet can now get to Belize in one day. So they can go to Cancun direct, and then from Cancun they can actually book a flight direct to Belize and be there in one day. So that's extremely promising for the future of the Belize market, which we'll get into.
This is great, Daniel. I didn't know that, and I guess my parents are going to be able to visit me directly into Belize now because they've always had the issue that it takes 2 days to get to Belize from France.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. And so, the emerging market, we've got approximately 2,000 hotel rooms in total on the island of Belize. And now, if you're a numbers person, which most of us are because we're all investors, if we think of last year compared to this year, the same month, there was a 17% increase in tourism. Now, if you've got 2,000 rooms and there's a 17% jump, keeping in mind that last year was a record-breaking year, never mind this year, how many more rooms do you now need to accommodate that extra 17%? 340. So, eventually we're going to be getting into, the investment opportunity of a one-bedroom hotel room, but it just helps to appreciate that the demand for the market versus the supply of hotel rooms and market for that, is way offset. It's not equal. It's not something that we're even able to keep up with. So that was a 17% increase over last year, and that did not include getting the #1 island in the world award on TripAdvisor. So what's going to happen next year, you think, Marie?
This is going to be crazy. I think you're going to have to build much faster than 3 years now. You're going to have to get another team of people because we're going to be sleeping on the beach.
Exactly. And a lot of these people, the new market that's opening up, many years ago, the draw was English speaking, which is still, but the market that's opening up is the condominium market, because before, 15 years ago, it was all about buying 20 acres, 50 acres, 100 acres, and doing some kind of land bank. Now it's breaking into a more resort hotelier style industry where there's demand for rooms to come and see this beautiful island, but there's just not enough product there. And so that's why these one bedrooms are just, something extremely appealing to investors right now. Low cost of living, we've touched on a little bit. But for the average person to come and live in Belize, it really does depend on lifestyle. So anywhere between $2,500 to $5,000 a month is going to help somebody live pretty comfortable here in Belize. So people live off their pensions and retirement savings for many years. Now, apart from that, a lot of retirement people, I've always thought that, retirement is a relative word because, nobody really retires. If you retire, you might as well just die. So you want to be doing something. So, a lot of people come down here and retire and they putter in a business, and there's lots of different business opportunities as well if they were considering to move down here. The fourth point down, undiscovered beauty. Well, it's starting to be discovered and it's still beautiful. The reef has actually been awarded as one of the most marine-filled reefs in the entire world. It's the second largest reef in comparison to Australia. And even about a year ago, Bill Gates, Angelo and I were walking down the beach and we saw this 330-foot super yacht come down the beach, and it was Bill Gates, and he decided to anchor and snorkel a dive and snorkel location called Holchan because it was rated the number 2 snorkel location in the world. And so yes, it's undiscovered, but it's definitely starting to be discovered. Now, as far as some of the infrastructure goes in Belize, clear title, because Belize is based on Commonwealth law. It's formerly known as British Honduras. Because Belize has Commonwealth law and Commonwealth government, that means that the title is a full fee simple strata title. So in other words, title under the Commonwealth system is actually backed by government. And so it's a similar system to Canada or British. It's not like Mexico or Costa Rica where you get involved in a 99-year lease. It's a far more stable form of ownership. The political stability, again, it's Commonwealth, it's a democratic government, and we still have the Queen on the bill. So that's why this has made Belize a further very appealing area for Canadians to get involved in investment. They feel comfortable and they feel that it's stable and that it's backed by the Commonwealth law, which is already very well known by most Canadians. Belize has a great QRP program. That's the Qualified Retirement Program. You're able to come to Belize, you can retire, and for the first full year of retirement, you can bring any goods, any personal goods and belongings, boats, cars, whatever you want, without any duty at all for the first year. So that's kind of one of the main perks of the Qualified Retirement Program. The exchange rate, it's pegged to the US dollar. So we can be thankful that the Canadian dollar is so strong because the real estate prices in Belize are US dollar prices. And so as the Canadian dollar gets stronger than the US dollar, to purchase real estate in Belize for Canadians, it gets cheaper. So now we're going on to some reasons to invest in Belize. Just reading through this here. So if we look at the total Caribbean as a whole, if you look at the cost for a condo or the cost per linear foot of a beachfront property in St. Martin or in Grand Caymans or even in Bahamas and other areas, it's far, far more expensive than what it is in Belize. But the paradox is that Belize offers far more. So in addition to the English speaking and we got the Barrier Reef, take Grand Caymans for example. Right now, we're going head to head with Grand Caymans as a Remax office in sales. Last year we actually beat the Grand Caymans in sales as far as volume goes and commission spread for the agents. Well, a typical condo in the Grand Caymans is like $3 or $4 million. So what does that tell us about the demand for this kind of market in Belize? Think about how many condos we'd have to sell or properties in order to just keep up with the Grand Caymans, never mind to go above and beyond what they are able to do. So the growth, we're right at the beginning of the growth for Belize as it becomes discovered. So baby boomers. I'm sure that there are some baby boomers online with us this evening, and there are 77 million baby boomers in the United States alone that plan on retiring in the next 10 to 15 years. Now, according to the statistics, there's 3.5 million of those baby boomers that are already getting their Social Security outside of the United States. So what does that mean? That means that in a small market like Belize, where you've got a total population of 300,000, and you've got an island that is just absolutely gorgeous with only 2,000 hotel rooms and a few condominium projects, that means that these areas are going to absolutely explode. So that's the second leg of stability to the investment. The first one was the tourism, which increased by 17% over last year, which was a record-breaking year. The second one is this huge movement of 77 million baby boomers. That's just in the United States. That's not even the taking into consideration Canada or the European market that's just opening up. Do you have any other thoughts there, Marie?
Well, I was also thinking of the diving tourism that is always going to be here no matter what, because you've got one of the best, the most beautiful coral reef in the world. So you're always going to have that diving tourism that would come to Belize.
Yeah, and plus we have the beautiful blue hole. The blue hole dive is world renowned. Belize was founded on pirates, and so there has been many cases where divers have found different coins, treasure chests, different jewels all the way along the reef. And there's some other areas that are hidden. We've got live treasure hunters that come down here with their metal detectors. And so it creates a very unique and exclusive opportunity for people to visit and also to say that they own a place in Belize. Now you've got Belize, but why Ambergris Caye? Well, Ambergris Caye, it did start out as a fisherman village, and now, obviously, with this latest TripAdvisor report, it's continuing to grow in its status. But what makes Belize different than the mainland, and also as far as its location, is you have the barrier reef that runs right along the side of the island. So if you were to go south in Belize to places like Placencia or Hopkins, those are good locations, but if you really want to go out to the reef and get a real experience of diving and snorkeling, you literally have to get on a boat and get bounced around for a good 45 minutes to an hour before you can get to the reef. So it turns out to be an entire day trip. In San Pedro, Ambergris Caye, you can be on the boat, you can do a 2-tank dive or a snorkel, and you can be back by lunch. So the proximity to the barrier reef for fishing, diving, and snorkeling has been key as far as the success of the location of Ambergris Caye. The other thing is that I noted, because I actually lived on the mainland for a bit. 1 second, please. I actually lived on the mainland for a bit, and I noticed that the culture is a little bit different on the island compared to the mainland. And what I mean by that is the industriousness of the culture. If you look at where Ambergris Caye is located, it's located very close to Mexico. As a matter of fact, Ambergris Caye used to be Mexico before the Mayans split it off many years ago and it became a part of Belize. Now what that means is the type of people that live on Ambergris Caye are half Mayan and half Mexican, half Spanish and half Belizean. So the people that live in other parts of the mainland in Belize, they're a little more Creole or Garifuna, which is a really, really dark Nigerian skinned people. And the attitude in which they accomplish their jobs, the hospitality industry is like night and day. I personally have found that the Ambergris Caye, the San Pedrianos, we call them, are very industrious and very hardworking people, which I think is one of the main reasons why Ambergris Caye has turned into such a tourist destination. Okay, so we talked also on here, we talked about the location of Belize with regards to its outdoor recreation. There's some great mainland attractions. You've got the rivers, you've got the year-round subtropical climate. If you want to enjoy the coast with the reef, you can. If you want to jump on a plane and jump over to the mainland, 15 minutes, you're sitting in the middle of a beautiful ecotourism luxury resort, which there's a lot of those in Belize, and there's nothing more cool than being suspended in a high-end villa in the jungle listening to the howler monkeys and sitting in your hot tub. It's the best feeling in the world. So if we continue down to the international health insurance, it's available for foreign residents. Medical care. This is an interesting topic. It's been predicted, amongst the ministers of government in the different nations throughout the Caribbean, that one of the next growing tourism industries that's going to outgrow tourism in itself is medical tourism. And so we're pleased to announce that as a part of our project, right behind Cocoa Beach and right behind Venezia, this year we have plans to break ground on a medical tourism facility that's going to accommodate Americans and Canadians where they can come and get a hip or knee replacement or cosmetic surgery and recover right in the resort. Now, some of you may ask, well, what kind of surgeons are these going to be? Well, it's actually a group of surgeons in the United States. So we're going to have some of the top licensed surgeons for the United States, orthopedic surgeons, that was the word I was looking for, that will be practicing in Belize on a rotational shift, and we'll be attracting medical tourism as well to the island of Ambergris Caye. What do you think about that, Marie?
I think it's amazing. I think it's really the trend right now. I've gone through actually some dental care in Belize just last year, and just to change a crown, I think a dentist in Montreal would have charged about $2,500 when a dentist in Belize charged me $250 per crown. So the whole thing would have costed me for 4 crowns $10,000, and I ended up paying about $1,500 or $1,700 for 4 crowns in Belize.
Right. So as the baby, correct. So as the baby boomer market starts to move offshore and retire and invest offshore, baby boomer markets are also breaking down, and they're going to need medical assistance, and they're going to want to get their knees replaced and hips replaced, but be able to do this with the same licensed surgeon that they would have in the States or Canada, and also be able to recover right here in the warm climate of Belize.
Right.
So this is an interesting point on this slide about how Belize was rated by Forbes as the #1 place for asset protection. Now, we all know why asset protection is so important nowadays with the Canadian government and the American government and everyone trying to scrounge for various tax havens. What's interesting about Belize is the banking system is still very much on a Rolodex system. And, to call a spade, what I mean by that is the banking systems are not that organized. And that doesn't mean that they're going to lose your money once your money is in the bank. But what that means is, in order to get any information out of the banks can be very difficult. So if it's difficult for somebody locally, how much harder do you think it would be for any international sources to get information out of the banks here in Belize? And so I'll say enough on that. I think everyone knows what I'm getting at. So confidential banking and also high interest savings accounts are available. The interest rates on the savings accounts varies depending on the term of the deposit, but it varies from 3 to 6%. Now, where else are you going to get 3 to 6% on your money in a bank? well, Belize still has that opportunity. We have, I'm just going down the list here, superior returns on market appreciation, tax-free with no capital gains. This is very, very interesting as well. So Belize does not have any capital gains. So with such an emerging market, what we do have is a lot of investors not only buying property for the cash flow, but looking at property for an actual market appreciation and return. And so that is with such a growing market going offshore, the baby boomer market, and also people looking to move their money offshore, that's building the appreciation in the various developments. So Venezia is the 5th project done by Sandy Point Resorts, and in all 4 previous projects, and this is a key to note here, all 4 of their previous projects, there has been between a 35 to 45% market appreciation from pre-construction to build out. So what that means is if you were to buy, say, a 1-bedroom at that price, we're saying that you're going to see at least a 35% market appreciation by the time it's built, in addition to the 8 to 10% return on the investment from a cash flow standpoint. The next point here that's interesting is the possibility to avoid the 5% transfer fee when flipping pre-construction units. Belize has a transfer fee just like Canada does. It's a 3% transfer tax in Canada. In Belize, it's a 5% transfer fee. However, the paperwork in Belize is a little bit different. The contract to purchase is made up, but the unit is not actually transferred until it's completely strata titled and completely finished. Now, what that means is if by the end of completion of the unit, the market appreciation has increased to such a degree where you say, hey, you know what? I don't even think I want the cash flow in this unit. I want to take advantage of the 40 or 50% market appreciation of this unit and sell it. Well, what that means is instead of transferring it into your name, you would say, hey, Dan, by the way, I want to sell my unit. And we would put your unit back on the market. We would sell it. And we would never even transfer it into your name. However, you would still get the profits on that unit sale. Now, what that means is you, as the investor, do not pay the 5% transfer fee because there is nothing transferred. Or if you want to transfer the unit into your name or into a company name or into an offshore company, which some of you may have some questions about later, we can do that, and obviously there would be a 5% transfer fee attached to that. These are some very, very nice pictures, Marie.
Oh, I see that, yes. Beautiful.
So let's talk a little bit about Venezia del Caribe. Again, these are some pictures of what the concepts are going to be for Venezia. It's going to actually be much nicer than what you see here, even though this is absolutely gorgeous. You can see the waterways. The pool area is probably going to be one of the largest pools in all of Central America. We've segregated the pool spaces so that although all of the pools are interconnected, we can segregate areas of the pool, and just in case we need to drain the pool to give it some kind of maintenance. The last thing that we'd want to do is drain the entire pool. Could you imagine that?
It would be crazy.
Okay, so Venezia del Caribe is located on a 330-foot wide piece of beautiful white sand beach. This resort is going to be Belize's first 4-diamond resort. Now, not 4-star, not 5-star, 4-diamond. And what that means is it's one thing to say, oh, it's a 4 or 5-star. Anybody can say that. But if you put the diamond certification on the resort, then it actually has to be certified by various inspection committees and certification companies with respect to the amenities that it offers and also the level of service. So Belize has never experienced a diamond acknowledgement, and so this is going to be Belize's first 4-diamond resort. One of the beauties of these units is we're going to have 12-foot ceilings. Now, even 10-foot ceilings is good, but the 12-foot ceilings are going to really make, it doesn't really matter what level you're on, it's going to make it extremely spacious, and we're going to have some beautiful mahogany moldings in the ceilings, as well as the cabinetry, and the interior design is going to be more than anything Belize has ever seen with respect to stone finishings, marble, granite, slabs, water features. As a matter of fact, what we've done is we've gone and purchased what's called a water jet machine. And for any of you that are familiar with those machines, they shoot out a 95,000 psi stream of water. So we're actually able to cut a 6-inch piece of titanium into whatever design you want. Now I'm just going to let Angelo talk for a minute about that specific machine, because Angelo has 24 years of interior design, and his family has about 40 years of laying stone, marble, granite, and he too is from Canada. His family owns Serrana Tiles, located in Ontario. It's one of the largest stone and tile companies in the country. And so I'm just going to let Angelo talk just before we get into these numbers here about the beauty of having this water jet machine. Angelo?
Good evening. My name is Angelo, and I'm the interior designer for Venezia del Caribe. Just to elaborate or expand a little bit more on our project here, we are the only ones thus far that are able to have a project that is semi-custom. In other words, the clients will be able to sit down with myself, the designer, and go over certain wish lists of what they'd like in their units. With the machinery that we've purchased, water jet machine and a CNC machine with a stone lathe, basically, if your wish is to have a solid stone tub cut out of solid marble, we can accomplish that as well. Beautiful water features consisting of different types of marble, granite, onyx, inlays. For example, inlays out of marble that you'd see that are polished to almost a glass finish. We'll be able to custom make different furniture pieces of art that will really make your unit stand out as one of a kind. So the possibilities, the upgrades, the different choices are amongst so many other unique features of Venezia del Caribe, and I'm here to sit down with you as the client and to make your dreams come true. So back to you, Daniel.
Thanks very much, Angelo, for that. One of the things that drew Angelo and myself to work with Sandy Point Resorts is the reputation and pattern of success that Sandy Point Resorts has accomplished in the last 14 years. And what I mean by that is in the last 14 years, 4 projects, Sandy Point Resorts manages over 100 owners, and not one owner has ever been out of pocket at the end of the year. In other words, if you purchase a unit and you want to use it for a month or 2 months a year and put it into the rental pool system, they have never had one owner at the end of the year been approached and said, hey, by the way, we couldn't market your property good enough. There's 2 months HOA fees owing, or there's an electricity bill here for you that you need to pay. Not once. And so that there alone makes Sandy Point Resorts unmatched in relation to a lot of projects, because a lot of times you'll find that you get into a condominium project and It all sounds fine and dandy, but then it doesn't give you the returns that you were looking for, and then all of a sudden you get a skyrocket in HOA fees. Now that leads me to my next point, HOA fees. Many people wonder, well, what's going to be the maintenance fees or the HOA fees? There was a previous resort that was built 13 years ago by Sandy Point Resorts called Belizean Shores Resort. Belizean Shores Resort is actually adjoining the land to the north of Venezia del Caribe, and Belizean Shores Resort was built 13 years ago. The maintenance fees on Belizean Shores Resort 13 years ago was $150 a month. Wow, that sounds pretty good. Well, what do you think it is today? 13 years later, it's $175 a month. So a $25 a month increase, that's it. Now, how many stories have you heard before where people buy into a resort and the maintenance fees are low, only to find the developer, once he's sold out, he subcontracts the management to another company, and they come in and there's special assessments and the HOA fees increase, and so on and so on. Sandy Point Resorts prides themselves on maintaining interest in their product and maintaining low HOA fees for their product, and they have a pattern of that. So that's what's really driving the sales for this project. Just in the last 2 weeks, we've sold 16 units in the last 2 weeks alone. So clearly the pattern speaks for itself. It's just a matter of informing the investor and the buyer of the opportunity. So speaking of the opportunity, so these one bedrooms are from $276,000 US. That's actually a special rate for Marie. Marie worked on us for over a year so that we would accommodate her and her potential investors and be able to provide a very appealing buy-in market appreciation. We're actually selling the exact same units that we're offering to Marie. We're selling the same units between $3.25 to $350. So there's already an equity position in the original buy-in. The future of Sandy Point, well, it's just going to be incredible. So phase one is well underway. You can see here by the picture, Cocoa Beach is to the left, Belizean Shores is to the right, and right in the middle, 330 feet of beachfront, is Venezia. Now you'll notice by the docks, you can see that the water is a lot greener and clear by the docks. One of the things that we're going to be doing is removing all of the seagrass and top coating it with white sand. So we're going to be actually building an island on the Caribbean side where the beaches, you can go right out and go swimming, and you can swim right up to the island and frolic around the island and have your martinis and whatnot as a tourist. So we talked about the surgical center, we talked about the medical center with the American licensed surgeons, and also, which we're just on the cusp of launching, is a custom home site. Now if you look at the picture and you look to the top right hand corner, even at the top you can see how there's a little bit of fill and there's a little bit of a border being put there. That whole area we're going to dredge out, and we're going to take the fill and create a custom home subdivision that's going to be more of a modern, contemporary, zen feeling subdivision with their own pools, their own lap pools, and people that own in that exclusive community will also have access to the Sandy Point Resort management system, and they'll be able to use their property when they'd like to, have the privacy, but also have the amenities and the service from the rest of Sandy Point Resorts on the Caribbean side. So we're very excited about that project as well. These are some construction shots of the hardworking construction men putting up. You can see how much rebar is inside of these units, which is actually more rebar and concrete than what the building inspectors require. That way we can make sure that the structures are able to withstand any hurricanes, which, by the way, Belize rarely has hurricanes. It's mostly Florida. There's a 14% chance of getting hit by a hurricane in Belize, a 68% chance of getting hit by a hurricane in Florida, because most hurricanes get pulled up towards the north and then over the Yucatan and across the Gulf of Mexico towards Florida or Texas. That being said, we build these things like bunkers. The windows are all German engineered Category 5 windows, and thankfully we have the barrier reef right there, because maybe 10 years ago we did have a Category 5 hurricane come through, and the largest surge was a 2-foot surge. That's it. So we're getting 10 or 15-foot surges on the barrier reef, and by the time it hit shore it was only about 2 feet. So you know, it provides a really good safe haven, and it truly is a barrier reef. So Marie, maybe you'd like to talk a little bit more about this exclusive offer that Sandy Point Resorts has offered you on the 1-bedrooms.
Yeah, sure, Daniel. I just want to mention that this investment opportunity in Sandy Point is really an exceptional resale value. As you said, you know, based on the 4-5 past projects that Sandy Point has done, if we were just to look at the upside 3 years from now, 35%, I think this is already exceptional, and this is based on past history. Now, Daniel, you've mentioned the TripAdvisor, you know, #1 island in the world, so this should increase tremendously the amount of people coming to the island, but also all the baby boomers coming in right now, and, you know, the diving community, the medical tourism. I really think, I mean, I believe, having been there many, many times, and I'm going again next week, that we should even have a greater number than the 35% upside. But, you know, if we want to be conservative, we can talk about 35% 3 years from now. And in addition to this, we have, our group has been given a 10% off all the condos, the 1-bedroom in Venezia. Granted, there is only 8 left out of the 15 you had. So we just grabbed the balance of the 1-bedroom and made it ours for the next 30 days. Whoever, you know, gets this opportunity, please remember that we only have it for 30 days. So there's actually 2 units reserved already. So I would say that 6 units are available at this point. Also, I just want to mention that based on the 40% occupancy rate that Daniel has, you and I, we've worked on that pro forma for the longest time, and we like to be conservative as investors always. We are looking at, just based on that 40% occupancy rate, knowing that the occupancy rate in Sandy Point has been, would you say, over 75%, Daniel? Like roughly a year long?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that many people do is they do inflate their occupancy rates, and they'll say inflated numbers because they include the owners in those occupancies, and so obviously the owners of the units aren't paying to use their units. There's no cash flow included in that. But Cocoa Beach, for example, this year their occupancy rate was between 67 to 70%, and that's without the owners. And so, interestingly, what they usually do as a marketing team is they create relationships with Travelocity, Book It, Expedia, and for the first 2 years, they pay exorbitant commissions to these travel agents to expose the resorts to the market. And so, interestingly, the occupancy rate this year was actually lower than last year, but the owners made more money this year because of the return business. Isn't that interesting? So what that means is they're charging more for the rooms, and there's less wear and tear on the units because of their established reputation. Now, it wasn't a huge drop in occupancy rate, but it was enough, which is actually a good thing for the owners because there's less wear and tear on the units, and they were able to make more money.
Right. And so we basically decided that we were going to use a 40% occupancy rate at Venezia, which is much, much lower than what you've ever had in the past, Danielle. But
that's,
just based on
that's a good old Canadian conservative number there, Marie.
Exactly. But just based on that, we are looking at a yield, a cap rate of 9%. And this is not even considering the huge amount of baby boomers and, the TripAdvisor latest news and everything else that is going to come up in the future, there's going to be a lot more occupancy. And if nothing else, like Daniel, what you discussed was more that you are going to increase the room price tremendously. Could you tell us a little bit? I know you have given us those numbers, but could you tell us what would be the room starting price point at Venezia compared to Cocoa Beach, and what do you look at in terms of 1 to 2 years from now in terms of EU increase?
Well, for example, if I could just elaborate more specifically too on these one bedrooms, is in a rental pool, what we've done is we've isolated the one bedrooms on their own. So typically what sometimes happens is if you participate in the rental pool, well, whether you're a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom or a 1-bedroom, you share in the entire amount of the income generated based on the square footage that you own. It's different here. What we did was, because we realized we had 2 types of buyers. We had one that was interested in lifestyle and retirement, but then we also have another that's interested just in investment. So we said, okay, well, what can we do to really enhance the cash flow investment? So what we did was we took the 1-bedrooms and we created a completely separate rental pool just for the 1-bedrooms. So they're on their own as far as a rental pool goes. Now at Cocoa Beach Resort, which is a previous project that we finished, which got all kinds of awards, we have 18 hotel rooms that are owned by the developer, and they're 400 square feet per room. And so we projected the cash flow for the 1-bedrooms based off of an existing cash flow model of these 1-bedrooms at 400 square feet. Now here's the beauty. Those 400 square foot units in Cocoa Beach are netting around $20,000 US a year. So for an 800 square foot unit here at Venezia, 1-bedroom, 800 square feet, and the finish out, which will be twice as nice as Cocoa Beach, what will they net? Well, obviously far more than $20,000 US. But even if that is the case, the average room rate, to answer your question, at Venezia compared to Cocoa Beach is probably going to be approximately 30% to 40% higher than it is at Cocoa Beach.
What would you start the price point would be, just so people have an idea of the type of rental they can expect?
Yeah, I think you'll see the 1-bedrooms at Venezia start at $300 a night.
Right. And that would only increase with the demand and basically offer and supply, right?
Exactly. And again, like I noted about the room shortage on Ambergris Caye, we have all these amazing channels of exposure, 17% increase in tourism over last year, which was record-breaking, and a complete shortage of rooms to stay in. So it can only get better.
Yeah. And we just want to add the management. A lot of people are asking about, would I have to manage my unit? And obviously not, because Sunny Point is going to fully manage. You're not going to subcontract the management to anybody else, so we can feel secure about the units will be completely hands off. Would you also elaborate a little bit on if people want to use it, let's say 1 or 2 weeks a year, what would happen to their return, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the unit is owned by the investor. It's their unit. It's fully titled. It's their unit. So they can use it whenever they want. Now, if they're going to participate in the rental pool, in the small print, it says that we need 90 days notice in order for us to make arrangements for the owner to use their unit. That being said, we have accommodated owners up to 3 days notice at no charge or no problem at all. The reason why that small print says 90 days is because we're trying to make these people money and we're trying to book these rooms out. So you can use your unit as much as you like, as long as we have reasonable notice. In the meantime, you're making your cash flow on the unit.
Yep. That's great. I think I don't have anything to add at this point.
Okay. Now we're getting into the management service again. So it's a 75-25 split. 75% goes to the owner and 25% goes to the management. It's everything on the inside of the unit. I'll just get into some answers that I know that some people will probably be asking. But the inside of the unit, if it's in the rental pool, anything that gets damaged, if the cabinetry needs to be revarnished or anything like that is taken care of by the management. If an appliance breaks down, it's taken care of by the management. The insurance for the entire project, the liability insurance, hurricane insurance, is bought in bulk. And so the developer, because the developer maintains interest in the project, like I was mentioning before as being so important, because they do that, they can go to the insurance companies, and after the insurance company gives the quote on cost of replacement, they can say, oh, by the way, we can give you a quote for cost of replacement for much lower than what you quoted us. So the insurance company comes back and says, oh, really? Well, that's fine. What I'm going to do then is decrease your insurance premium for the resort as long as you as a construction company commits to coming in at cost for the cost of replacement. So that's a really nice perk because we get the insurance at wholesale and it gets spread amongst all of the owners. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, what about content insurance? These units are built so well that 90% of our owners do not have content insurance. And so because most of it's stone and marble, and most of the ground floor units are approximately 5 feet above sea level, and we had a category 5 come through, and the largest surge was 2 feet. Most of our owners decided not even to have content insurance. It's available, but because these are built so well with the Hurricane 5 windows and the German engineered windows and doors, that most people don't have it. Well, that's a nice question. Why put off your dreams for another day? That's exactly it. So I myself has invested in Venezia. I having 80% of the market share, you could only imagine how many deals that we see come across our desk. And I myself decided to invest in Venezia because I truly feel that in the long run, not only from a cash flow, but even from a market appreciation point of view, it's going to be a win-win. So these are your trips that you're planning, Marie?
Yes, we are planning another tour in August, coming up in August, and one in November. We're going to take about 15 people. That's pretty much what we like to have, not more than that. Makes it more friendly this way. And if people want to register, of course, they just let us know, and we'll be a very nice group coming to Belize and meeting with Danielle, and you guys are going to see the beauty of the island of Ambergris Caye. This is all of us. This is actually all of us last year. You guys are looking at the picture of all of us. Pretty happy picture.
Let's go back to that picture for a minute. That's a great picture. So that's one of the little, we call those puddle jumpers. So when you land in Belize City International, you get onto this little puddle jumper, and you fly right over the barrier reef, and you'll see how gorgeous the waters are. And you land in San Pedro, and our concierge service is sitting there waiting for you. But the adventure really starts when you get into this little plane. They're just awesome, and they're very, very well maintained, and it's very safe.
Yeah, and very reliable. That's what I was going to say, Danielle. And obviously, if people want to have more information on what we discussed tonight, we'll have an investor pack sent to them. Just let us know. Just send us an email. Now we're going to be opening just question and answers. And Andrea, if you want to start gathering people's questions, I don't know if you had some questions over the presentation, but we will be answering right now the questions and answers.
Okay,
sure.
Great. We haven't had any questions come in during the webinar itself thus far, but for anyone that has a question, please don't be shy. You just have to type in your question there in the chat box, which is in the bottom right of the GoToWebinar, your little dashboard, your little control panel there. So feel free to go ahead and just type in a message to us, and I'll go ahead and read it, and we can answer the questions for you. Or if you'd like to speak live and ask your question, let me know that either by chat or by raising your hand, and I can go ahead and unmute you so that you can ask your question with your own voice. So I'm not sure, in the meantime, while we wait for any questions to pop in, I'm not sure if there's anything else that you guys wanted to elaborate on in terms of the program or the project itself.
Well, I just wanted to mention that we'll have also a pro forma ready for people to look at some numbers. So we'll be sending this information to them as they wish. Anything else, Daniel, you want to add while we're waiting for questions?
No, but I do want to emphasize, the fact that there is a 30-day hold. We already have buyers for some of these units that are reserved by the Zen investor, but we're people of our word, so we've committed them to you. And so this kind of, if you're looking to invest offshore and to get taking advantage of this baby boomer movement, the Venezia del Caribe project is really a no-brainer. It's one of those projects where it's got a proven track record, and the people and the developers stand behind it, and the credentials are there to prove it. So one other point that I did want to mention, specifically about the importance, whether you invest in Venezia del Caribe or any project, the importance of having the developer maintain interest in the product is almost non-optional. And to give you an example of that, how many times have you heard of a developer where they sell their real estate out, they subcontract the management to a management company, and something major goes wrong, and the developer is nowhere to be found? You ever heard of those circumstances?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'll give you an example. At Cocoa Beach, for example, the railings, the lower level of the spindles were actually not sealed properly, and moisture got into the lower levels of the spindles and into the concrete of the railings, and all of the concrete and the railings all around the resort started to crack. And so could you imagine if the developer was no longer in the picture and a management company came in and that happened, what kind of special assessment that would have been for the owners? It would have been ridiculous. Guess how much it cost the current owners to fix all of that? Zero.
I don't know, 20. Zero.
Zero.
Oh.
Zero. Because the developer stands behind their product. And so having the developer maintain interest in the resorts that they build, especially in the Caribbean, not only brings a pride of ownership and low maintenance fees because of pride of ownership, preventative maintenance, but it also brings accountability. And so with 15 years of real estate experience, that, in my books, is a #1 pre-qualifier for this outfit, Sandy Point Resorts.
And not to mention also the maintenance that is spectacular that is being done, and you can tell, even the Belizean shore, you mentioned, Daniel, that is a 13-year-old project. It's still very well maintained. Actually, as a matter of fact, our group, we stayed there last year, and we had nothing to say about the customer service was great, and the units, of course, they are older units, but they are still very well maintained. And obviously, the Cocoa Beach is your latest project, is a spectacular one, and we are very much looking forward for the Venezia and whatever else you have in the back and I'm sure we will be talking about this in the future as well. There is a lot more that you are developing right now, Daniel. I don't know if you want to touch on that, or maybe that should be for another presentation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, I'm sure we're going to critique this presentation, and there's other presentations in the future that will happen, especially with respect to those custom homes, and you know, with the medical center coming on board. You know, we've already tied up a number of pieces of land that we have other plans for, but that's in the secret developer's vault, and so that's yet to be seen. But we can be sure that it's going to be a success, just like the other 4 projects, and now our 5th one, Venezia.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I have a question here from Chris. Chris wants to know what the deposit is to hold a unit, and he wants to know if there are any financing options.
Okay, so thank you very much for the question. One thing is that we do take a $5,000 reserve for the unit, and so if there's a particular unit on a particular level that you'd like to reserve, it's a $5,000 reserve, and that's for 14 days. So that $5,000 is fully refundable for 14 days. We're not in the business of taking people's deposits. We want to make sure that our buyers want to buy because they want to buy, not because they've already put money towards it. And so from that point, you would either make arrangements to come down, or you would get a little bit more information and due diligence behind your investment. And what would happen at that point is, as far as financing goes, we have a progress payment schedule. So it's 10% down, which includes the $5,000, and then 15% incremental payments over a period of 2 to 2.5 years. So those increments can be spread if you have a certain time frame that you're looking at. Some people are cashing in on pensions and, you know, company buyouts and things like that. But it's 10% down and then 15% incremental payments.
Okay, great. There's another question here from Faye. And Faye wants to know if we have any idea what the HOA fees will be.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question, Faye. If we take it on the same level or template like we've done in the 4 previous resorts, an 800 square foot unit, the HOA fees are probably going to be between $160